Salem, a 10-year-old boy, was born in a small village surrounded by wide wheat fields. He was a curious child who loved nature and spent most of his time exploring small things others found unimportant. Salem lived with his parents and younger sister in a simple house. His father was a farmer, and his mother wove handmade carpets. Every morning, after finishing his schoolwork, Salem would go and sit under the big mulberry tree near the fields. His true passion was watching ants. One day, while Salem was sitting under the tree, his friend Ali came. Ali was the same age, but less interested in nature. He sat next to Salem and asked, "What are you doing here? I always see you staring at the ground. Don't you get bored?" Salem smiled and pointed to a small ant hill where ants were moving busily. "Look at these ants. I always wonder how they work so hard and carry things much heavier than them. Have you ever seen an ant stop?" Ali shrugged and said, "They're just ants. What's the use of watching them?" Salem replied excitedly, "But think about it. If every small creature stopped working, can you imagine how the world would look? Ants may be small, but they build their kingdom and help the environment." One day, Salem decided to follow the ants to see where they were going. He took his magnifying glass and carefully walked behind the ants for a long distance. Finally, he reached a big tree with dry leaves on the ground. The ants were collecting the leaves and carrying them to a small hole. Salem sat and watched for hours, then went home to tell his father what he saw. Salem told his father, "Ants never stop working. They remind me of the stories you tell about our ancestors and how they worked together to build the village." His father smiled, patted his head, and said, "That's a smart observation, Salem. Ants teach us teamwork and persistence. Even if you're small, you can achieve big things if you work hard." The next day, Salem brought a book about insects from the school library and started reading about ants. He discovered that ants are not only hard-working, but also have a complex social system. He began sharing what he learned with Ali and other friends. He told them, "Did you know ants can carry weights 10 times heavier than their own? And they live in communities like villages." His friends listened in surprise, but Ali said, "What's the use of knowing all this? Ants won't make you rich or famous." Salem calmly replied, "Maybe they won't make me rich, but they help me understand the world around me. And every piece of knowledge is a step forward." Years passed, and Salem grew up, but he never forgot his passion for ants. He went to university and studied biology. He focused his research on ant behavior and how it could help understand complex systems. After years of study and hard work, Salem discovered a way to apply ant movements and teamwork to improve communication networks. At a big science conference, Salem presented a research paper on using ant behavior models to improve digital network efficiency. His work impressed scientists and major tech companies. After his talk, someone from the audience asked him, "What inspired you to study ants so deeply?" Salem smiled and answered, "It all started when I was a little boy in my village. I learned from ants that teamwork and persistence can achieve great things." Salem returned to his village after the conference and visited the tree where he used to sit as a child. He remembered those simple moments that were the beginning of everything. He looked at the ground where ants were moving steadily and said softly, "Even the smallest things can make a big difference if we understand their value." Then he wrote in his notebook, "Life is like an ant hill. It may look small and ordinary, but it hides an amazing system and great lessons. Those who observe learn, and those who learn make a difference."